Всем привет, Alan here. How's everyone doing? So glad to see all of you. Today, to make our videos more interesting and engaging, we are going to be looking at the shot list. Now, personally, I think I already knew 4 of them when I started researching: the close-up, the wide, the drone, and the POV. And then I found out that there's actually 6 different categories that all have their own different types of shots. These ones being the shot size, the framing, the camera angles, camera movement, focus, and equipment shots. Today we're going to be looking at the shot size and the framing so that we can just take our time to learn all the information rather than just cramming everything in our head. Not the way to go for sure. So let's get right into it. Now, a shot size is all about the relationship between the scene and the subject. So you decide how much of the scene or the subject you want to showcase in your shot. Now, starting off with the more scene-heavy shots, these ones will be the extreme wide shot and the wide shot. Now, an extreme wide shot is all about location. It shows us where the scene is going to take place, and you don't usually see the subject, only maximum a indication of where he may be. Let's take this frame right here from Mad Max Fury Road. Absolutely love this movie. You see a very far shot where we can see not only the location itself, but also the sheer size of the storm that is approaching. Next one up is the wide shot. It is significantly closer to the subject than the extreme wide shot, meaning that we can see what the character is actually doing, but it still prioritizes the location more than the subject himself. So we're still establishing where the character is and his relationship to the scene rather than what he is doing. And it is also a very effective way to show loneliness or being lost or alienation when you have one subject and a huge vast area of, let's say, land. Now, before we continue to the next one, it's worthwhile to mention 2 shots which are more like techniques, which is the establishing shot and the master shot. An establishing shot sets up the location. It shows the audience where the scene is going to take place. Sounds familiar, right? Exactly. That's because establishing shot is usually an extremely wide shot so that we can see the overview of where the scene is going to take place, compared to, let's say, the master shot, which also shows us the location but at a more detailed version of it. So let's say if our establishing shot is the city, then the master shot can be the room or the apartment where the scene is going to take place, and also it will introduce at the same time the characters and the relationship between them all. And then of course the scene starts to play. This one is usually shot as a wide shot so that we can fit all the characters in the scene. Next one up is the full shot. This one is similar to the wide or long shot, which is another name for it, in the sense that we can see the subject from head to toe. However, the difference is that in a full shot we are prioritizing what the character is doing and saying rather than where he is. And this is just a small finer detail, so we can see him doing an action, but we might not really be so focused about where he is compared to the wide shot. Taking one step closer, and now we have the medium full shot / cowboy or American shot. This one was popularized by the Western movies, thus the cowboy. And this shot shows the character from knees or maybe a little bit higher and upwards. And the cowboy shot came from the holsters. So it would cut the subject just below where the holsters would be. So in between your knees and your waist. And I think it's because of these Western movies, there is also an association with this shot giving the subject a more confident and a heroic look, but again that really depends on the context of your film. So if you have someone badass with a gun, then most probably it's a heroic and a confident look, whereas if it's a girl crying, then of course that's not the case. One step forward, and now we have our medium shot. This one is very popular in movies and in videos in general because of 2 reasons. First of all, it focuses on what the character is doing and saying, and at the same time it also is the natural or general way we see people when we're having conversation with them. So we see them from waist and upwards. Now one step closer, and now we're hitting the medium close-up. A medium close-up is when you're showing your character from the chest, so around here, and upwards. So this is actually a medium close-up shot. And this is particularly effective when you're trying to draw attention to the character and what he's saying, and you're showing a little bit of background, but just a little bit to get like a context of where he's sitting, but avoiding distraction. And this is why it's very popular among YouTubers, interviews, documentaries, and news. One more step, and now we have the close-up. A close-up involves the subject's face, or maybe a little bit his neck, and it's all about emotions and facial expressions. Basically, when you're showing an emotion so close, it just makes it feel much stronger and more powerful. Whether it's sad, in love, or happy, whatever it is, it just multiplies the intensity of it, which is why it's being used a lot, especially in drama. And finally, we have the extreme close-up, where this one we are so close to the subject, or the subject is so close to the camera that we can see only a part of it, whether it's the eyes, the nose, the mouth, or a specific element. For example, let's imagine a scenario where we have a detective who's talking to a person on the street, believing that he belongs to some kind of gang that he's trying to bust. After talking to him, he finds out no information, he turns around and he leaves because he believes that person is the wrong guy. However, then we get a cut into an extreme close-up which shows a tattoo, a small tattoo on the neck of that guy, that tells us that in reality that guy was belonging to the gang, but just the detective did not notice it. So it's just those little moments right there, close-ups, that can give us more information about the person or the scene or just the story in general. And that basically sums up the whole shot sizes. Now let's talk about framing. By the way, I'm sorry that the camera picture and most of the quality changed. My battery died literally while filming, so I had to wait until it gets charged. I know, one more thing to add to my purchasing list. When it comes to the framing, what we are deciding is the amount of characters we're going to have in our shot, as well as the position of them and the perspective from which we are going to be capturing the scene. When it comes to the characters, it's pretty straightforward. One character is one shot, two characters is two shot, three characters is three shots, and so on and so forth. We need to keep a common sense here. There's no point in calling it 125 shot when we can just call it a crowd shot. There is an important condition that needs to be met, and that is the amount of faces. So if we have two shots, we should have two faces. Three shot is three faces. If this condition is not met, then a shot gets downgraded and is called a dirty shot. And this is another set of terminologies. Let me explain. There is two terms, a clean and a dirty shot. A clean shot is when we have a character or characters and there is no one else around. So in this case, it is a clean one shot because we have just one person and no one else around. If I take my friend here, Ursa Ring, now we have two faces and now it is a two shot because there's no one else around. However, if I move him around, put him somewhere in the back like this, but he is still a character of this shot, then it is called a dirty one shot. If we have two characters and a third one somewhere in the background or in the foreground blocking a little bit of the shot, this is called a dirty two shot. When it comes to the perspective, there are three options. You have the over the shoulder, over the hip, and also the point of view. An over the shoulder shot is when we're capturing a scene of a character and we have a visible shoulder of the second character in front, or in the foreground of the shot. Now this shot is considered to be a hybrid, meaning that it can work as a one shot or a two shot. With one shot, it means that we can be focusing only on one character and we will have always the shoulder in front, the foreground, for example. And a two shot is when we have two characters and we'll be just jumping between one shoulder and another one. And the good part of this shot is that it gives us a more personal feel, so we can first of all see not only the perspective of each character, what they're seeing, but also we feel more included in the conversation itself. At least that's what I feel. Now the over the hip is pretty much the same, just we are lowering the camera down to the hip level of the person in the foreground. The effect of this is that when we have one person sitting down and one standing up, we can also create this imbalance in the power. In other words, the person standing up has more power than the person sitting down. So this is something that we can play around. Then we have the POV, the point of view. This is when we assume the position of the character. So we see what the character sees. This can also be a character, an object, or a ghost, anything literally. and we basically experience what they are experiencing. And I really love this shot, especially in scary movies, when we assume the position of the ghost that is haunting or the victim that is being haunted by the ghost. It just creates way more tension as we are feeling as an audience what they are feeling. Absolutely love this one. And finally, we have the insert shot. This one is more technical. It usually is associated also with like close-ups, but it can also be a medium shot. It basically features any object or item that further develops the story, and it's something that maybe the audience will not notice, or perhaps this object has a lot of meaning and we want to underline this by actually featuring it. A classic example of this is the Lord of the Rings ring. When you see the ring with the inscription and as it glows and speaks to you, you just know that this ring is special compared to all the other rings that exist in the world. Now there's also different ways you can present the insert shot. You can present it from a POV standpoint, from a third person, from the top. It really depends on your own creativity. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the shot sizes and the framing. I hope you found this information useful. Enjoy the video, do drop a like, consider subscribing, drop a comment down below also. It would be really nice to talk to you guys. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next one, where we will be continuing to exploring the other shots that exist. See you in the next one. Пока.